my name is Melissa van Dijk and I'm a professional makeup artist, and in today's video I'm going to create 3 stunning eye makeup looks which you can recreate at home, and I'm going to use the Kryolan eyeshadow palette to create the looks. And as you can see, it is a beautiful palette where you can create everyday makeup looks as well as evening and creative makeup looks. Now this video will take some time, I have to say, but you will learn at the end how you're using the palette, how you can also use the different shadows to create a beautiful makeup look. And if you're following it in steps and you're going to sit down and recreate it at home, this is how you can get better at something, and you will find also your passion in it as well as your own creativity. Now with that being said, I also hope that you'll like this video, and if you want to keep this channel independent as well as this review, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it. Thank you so much for your support, and let's get started. The Kryolan Viva Brilliant Color Medley Iridescent is a color-intensive pressed powder eyeshadow palette with pearlescent effects suitable for your eyes, face and body. Now this eyeshadow palette has 15 different shadows in the palette, and it will cost you around 100 euros, which is definitely not too expensive because it's made in Germany and not in a sweatshop. Now how should you use it? It can be applied dry or with a damp brush or sponge, and you can apply it wet to strengthen the color effects and its adhesion. Now I'm going to show you in 2 different looks how you can use it with a damp brush as well as with a wet brush. And you can use an eyeshadow primer or concealer for smoother application. Now you guys know that I like to prepare my eyelids with concealer, and that's what we are going to do in this video as well. And is there something else that you need to know? Well, the pearlescent mica pigments are responsible for the soft glow and glitter of the eyeshadow, and there are no metallic pigments that are being used. Now, what I love about this palette is how the colors are presented and how the layout is, because if you're just having a look at the palette, you will come up with so many new ideas on which look you can create. Doesn't matter if you're looking it towards the horizontal, vertical or diagonal, it always will give you a beautiful idea on how you can create a look. Now, for the first 2 looks, I have to say I went vertical when it comes to the color section, and then with the other one I went a little bit like crazy because of the very creative side. But you just have a look at those colors and they work beautifully together. It doesn't matter with which color you're going to apply first, it always will come out with a beautiful makeup look. And this is something that I haven't seen before, and this is also something that I really love about this palette. So let's move on to the first look. Now for the first eye makeup look, I thought it might be a good idea if you're going to start off with an everyday makeup look, which I'm going to create in 6 easy steps. And when it comes to the colors, I've used the second vertical road, which is the brown section. And when it comes to the brushes, I personally like to use the Viva eyeshadow brushes, which I also can recommend, but any eyeshadow brush will work. But I'm going to show you also how I'm going to use different brushes to create the look. And then next we have already a little bit of an overview on how I'm going to create the look in little steps. And lastly, this is basically the finished look. So let's get to work. Now to start off, we're going to focus it towards the outer corner, and we're going to start off with the darkest shade from that row, which is this dark brown shade right here. And I'm going to use the dense blending brush, which you can dig into it just a slightly bit, and if you need to, you always can add more. So start off with a little bit and then you can build it. And I'm also going to use my little hand mirror, of course, and I'm going to focus it towards the outer corner. And I'm going to start off with circular motions and then following it also through the outer corner as well as a little bit towards the crease. And you always can build it up, like once you have blended the color and you feel like you need a little bit more, then just dig into it and apply it on top and blend it again. Now don't worry about any line right here because we are going to apply a second color later on top. What's now really important is that you're going to blend the color towards the outer corner so that there aren't any harsh lines right here. Now I'm going to use the flat eyeshadow brush for the main lid area application, and I'm going into the one in the middle right here, which is more like of a copper shade, and it's a little bit like lighter than the dark brown shadow, which makes it perfect for the main lid area application. And with this one I'm going in a little bit more intense when I'm going to get it on my brush, just to make sure that the flat side of the brush is nicely coated, and then I can press it on top of the eyelid before I'm going to blend it. And now you can also blend it slowly towards the dark brown shade, and if you feel like you're going to lose the dark brown shade, then you always can go back in with a dense blending brush, go into the dark shadow and start blending on top of it so that the colors are melting into each other. Now for the lower lash line, I'm going into the same dark brown shadow with the same dense blending brush. So I'm going to dip into it just a tiny bit, not too much. And then I always can add more, and I'm going to start from the outer corner towards the inner corner. And because the dense brush is very dense and it's not too fluffy, it still will work for the lower lash line. And you can meet up right here at the outer corner so that you can blend it towards the top color. Now for the next step, we are going to start blending with a clean fluffy blending brush, and you can add some product if you feel like there is an area where you still are missing some color, but you don't have to, as if you're using a clean blending brush, this just will help you to soften the edges so that it won't look too harsh anymore, or too dark if you don't like the color pigmentation and you just want to soften it a tiny bit. This works beautifully if you're just going to use a clean blending brush. And if you feel like there's a spot where you're missing a bit of color, then you always can go ahead and take one of the other brushes if you like to, or clean one brush in between. And then you can also go ahead and reapply a bit of shadow and then use the blending brush again. Now for the last step for this eye makeup look, we are going to highlight the inner corner as well as put on some mascara. And when it comes to highlighting the inner corner, it's really important that if you have wide-sided eyes, you're staying away from very light and shiny shadows, because this will make it more obvious that you have wide-sided eyes. So matte or darker shadows are a little bit better when it comes to the inner corner section. Other than that, you can go ahead and use the lightest shadow. I'm going to use this one right here on the top, and you either can apply it with your pinky, which will give you a beautiful finish, or if you have long nails as I do, then you can't reach it, but then you can also use a very precise eyeshadow brush, which will focus the point towards the inner corner. Now I'm going to take a little bit of the eyeshadow right here on the tip, and then I'm going to apply it towards the inner corner. And then finishing it off with mascara. And there you have the first everyday eye makeup look created with the Kryolan eyeshadow palette. Now for the second eye makeup look, we are going with the gorgeous classic evening makeup look, which we are going to create in only 3 steps. And I'm going to use the colors towards the gray and white section, which is the first vertical row. And I'm also going to use the same brushes as I used earlier in the tutorial. The only difference is I'm going to use a smudger as well. Now with this eye makeup look, we're also having some fun with some water, as I'm going to dampen the brush and see how intense we can get the color. And if we're having a look at the 3 main steps, you will see first we're going to apply some silver, then the dark gray, and at the end a little bit of mascara and some shine in the inner corner. And here you have also the finished look when it's about the classic evening makeup look, which you definitely can wear with any dress, and it is also very suitable for an evening makeup look. So just have fun with the look and enjoy your evening. So for the first shadow, we're going to start off with some silver, and I'm also going to use the flat eyeshadow brush, as well as I have some water next to me. So what we're going to do is I'm going to dip into the cup, Get the brush just wet a tiny bit, like not like put it really into the water, just a tiny bit, and then take the rest on the back of your hand so that you can just make sure that the brush is damp, not too wet, and then we can dig into the silver eyeshadow. So take a little bit on the flat side of the brush so that we can keep it focused on this side, and then we are going to apply it on the main lid eye area, because then we can see how intense the color can get. And if you always need a little bit more water in between, then you like can do so, feel free, and then dig into the color and then apply it again. So this is what we're going to do now. So I have some on the brush and I'm going to focus it on the main lid area only. So I'm going to get some water, having the rest on the back of my hand so that it's not too wet. You can also have a towel next to you where you are going to dab the water onto the towel so that you will have a damp brush but not like a really wet brush, because we don't want to like drain it into the water. And then up towards the crease. Make sure that this time you're already blending the edges if you're going to reach the crease with the shadow. And I have to say, this works so nice and easy. Even though I've used a damp brush and the shadow is wet, it still blends so easy and like seamlessly. As there aren't any harsh edges, it just went beautifully towards the crease. Now I'm going to use the smudging brush, which is a stiff brush, but it still has a very flat side, and it is a beautiful brush if you want to create more of like a, not really a wing liner, but a line over the lashes, which is so handy. And I'm going to use the dark grayish shade. So this one right here on the bottom, and I'm also going to wet the brush, not too much, just a tiny bit. Taking some of the water on the back of my hand and then digging into the shadow. And if you need more, then you always can do so, but start with a little bit at first. And then we're going to apply it over the lash line. Now, while we created now a line, we can go in and use the blending brush, which is a dense blending brush. And this one we are not going to wet, we are going to keep it dry. And we are going to get the same shadow, the dark gray shadow, but we are going to focus it towards the outer corner. And we are going to go over the line as well, as we want to create a little bit more, not really a smudging effect, but still the line should be visible, as well as having it a little bit faded towards the silver, so that it also will look a little bit softer. Now with this look, I'm going to keep the outer edge pretty sharp, not really like a wing, but a little bit more towards the V shape rather than having a round shape. and then a little bit towards the crease. And then if you need to, you always can go back with the brush where you used the silver. So with the makeup application, it's always like going back and forth with the colors that you've just applied, because if you're blending, you might like have a lack of the other color that you used earlier, but this is normal. So this is what blending is about. It's basically melting the colors into each other. So moving on to the other side, we are just going to repeat it with starting off with the smudging brush, and it still is a little bit wet, so this is enough. And I'm going into the dark gray shadow and just going to repeat the same. Now what you can do to soften the edges, or if you have any harsh lines, then again you can take a fluffy blending brush to soften those edges. And this is what I'm going to do right here. And also going to match it towards the other side. And lastly, we're going to use the lightest shadow to highlight the inner corner. And as again, if you have white-sided eyes, you know the drill because I've mentioned it already. And we're also going to finish off the look with a few coats of mascara. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same brush again as earlier, and I'm going to dig into this lightest shade right here, which I'm going to focus towards the inner corner, so that we have this little sparkle going on in the inner corner to open up the eye. now just a tiny bit of mascara. Now this is basically how you can create this classic evening eye makeup look within only 10 minutes, which isn't too bad. It's so simple but still very glamorous. So let's have fun with it, and now let's move on to the last one. And for the third eye makeup look, we are going to create this simple and gorgeous festive makeup look in 6 steps. Now if you're having a look at the colors that I'm going to choose, I went a little bit all over the place just to make sure that I can show you various colors. And I went into the dark purple, red, pink, light blue and yellow. And when it comes to the brushes that I've used, mainly the same 3 brushes that I've used in the last 2 eye makeup looks. The only thing that's different is that I've used the very precise eyeliner brush as well as the very small and tipped brush, which I use also for the inner corner. So this is basically what it will look like. And if we are having a look at the 6 steps, then this is how we are going through this eye makeup to create this like gorgeous and beautiful festive eye makeup look. And here you have it once with the finished look with mascara on, and also what it will look like if I'm having my eyes closed. So let's get to the colorful part. Now first I'm going to start off with the flat eyeshadow brush, and I'm also going to wet it. So I still have the water in front of me. I'm going to wet this one just a tiny bit more because I wanted to intensify the color, and still using the back of my hand to like evenly get the color through the brush. But for the first color, I'm going to get into this pinkish tone right here, which has a beautiful iridescent shift. So if you're going through the color, it basically shifts also in a deeper purple, which is so beautiful. And I just want to keep the focus on that color specifically and have it on my main lid area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, because I have to, the brush still wet, I'm going to dig into the color very intensively so that the whole flat side of the flat eyeshadow brush is coated. And then I'm also going to take my little mirror and I'm going to start applying it on the main lid area. I'm getting the color until I'm reaching the crease, and then I'm also going to blend the edges at the same time so that I won't end up with any harsh lines or harsh edges, because later on it gets a bit difficult to blend if you're not going to do this at the same time, as we are going to wet the brush and also the color itself is still wet on the eyelid area. Now for the next step, we're going to blend some blue through the crease, and I'm going to use the dense blending brush as well as digging into the light blue shadow right here on the top. So starting off with a little bit, and then you always can add more if you feel like it. But start off with a little bit, because then you can also control the blending a little bit easier. And then if you feel like you need a little bit more color, just apply it on top and blend it again. Now if you feel like you're losing one of those two colors because of the blending, this can happen, then you always can go back into the color that you used earlier. So I'm going to use the flat eyeshadow brush again, dig in into the same pink shadow. I'm going to apply it on top so that we can blend the two shadows together. And if you need to, you don't necessarily have to, but if you want to clean the edges and make them a little bit more faded, then you always can go ahead and use a clean blending brush. This one is now a fluffy brush to soften the edges. Moving on to the eyeliner, so I'm going to create with the dark deep purple the eyeliner, and this is also where I'm going to use this precise eyeliner brush, which I'm also going to wet. Now this one is not only damp, I'm going to really wet it so that the bristles will stick together and I also can create a proper line. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into the dark purple right here to create the liner. Now what you can do with this creation, you always can go ahead and wet the brush a little bit more, then go into the purple again, and so on until you're getting the pigmentation that you need. And I have to say, with those colors right here, it works beautifully. And for some reason I also feel like those colors, like even though you're going to wet them with water to make them more intense, they are still water resistant, because with the second eyeshadow I couldn't really get it off the back of my head, so it was water resistant, which is also a great and also big plus point when it comes to this palette, as it is such a versatile palette. Now I have some like purple on the brush, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus it now on top of my lash line, and I'm also going to wing it out. Now I'm always going back into the water to wet the brush and also get more color on the brush, because then the bristles will stick together. And now we can move on to the next step. Now let's have a little bit of color on the lower lash line as well. And so I'm going to use the same brush that I've used the pink with, but I'm going to dig into some red. And I'm going to use the flat side right here on top, because then I won't dig into like a lot of pink, so that I can keep the focus on the red shadow only. And we are going to dig into this one right here. So I'm just going to use the tip of the brush. And this is also what we're going to focus on the lower lash line, starting from the outer corner towards the inside. And with this shadow you can also use the blending brush for underneath, so that you can kind of smoke out the lower lash line just a tiny bit. Like so. For the next step, we're going to keep the focus towards the inner corner, and I'm not going to use white or beige, I'm going to use yellow. Well, actually, the name of the color is gold. So I'm going to get this shade right here towards the inner corner to open the eye, and I'm going to use the very precise brush, which I've mentioned already earlier, but this time I've also included it like for this look, because I just feel like if you have long nails and you can't really focus towards the inner corner, then a brush like this is really handy. And you can also do precise work with it if you need to. Now getting some on the brush and then focus it directly towards the inner corner and blending it into the purple and red shadow. And to finish the look with the last step, this is basically using a bit of mascara on the lashes. Now I'm just going to use a tiny bit, and if you like to, you also could add false lashes if this is something that you would prefer, as well as also because it's a festive, colorful makeup look, it's very suitable. And now I just would love to share with you one other thing which is so great about those eyeshadow colors. Now you might wonder how you're going to remove the eyeshadow and if it's going to stain your eyelids or not. Now I've used blue, purple and red on purpose because those are the colors that can be tricky and it can also stain your eyes. Now I have a makeup remover right here and I'm just going to show you how easily it removes without any effort. Now isn't it amazing that it doesn't stain your eyes and you can get it off so easy? Of course it's your eye area, so be very gentle, but you won't see any residue, you won't see any stain, and this makes it such a good palette in my personal opinion, because with other ones that are quite new on the market, they do have the issues that it's going to stain, and then the day after you will end up with red or blue eyes on top, even though you have already removed the eye makeup. Now those were the 3 main eye makeup looks which I wanted to share with you, which are all created with the Kryolan Brilliant Eyeshadow Palette, and this is such a gorgeous palette, and I just want to keep it like all over the place so that I'm using most of the colors but still make it also suitable for you guys if you want to get this palette for yourself or if you want to create the look at home. And I'm also like going to put some time down below where I'm going to start with the first, second or third eye makeup look, because I know that this video is quite long. And if you watched it until the end, well, thank you so much for watching this video and for your support, and I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it, and this is also how you can keep this channel independent. Now thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon in the next one. Bye!